What is going on, everybody? My name is Brad Carney, and I am the lead developer on Exoverse. And once again, I'm here to discuss the patch notes for the version that just came out. This one is called Into the Lab. And basically, a big part of our emphasis on this update is basically to clear up a lot of confusing issues that people have been running into in this game. There have been a lot of things we've tried to fix up before, but yeah, there are still some issues that were left. And hopefully, this update here puts the rest of those to rest, I hope. If not, we'll get them next time. But basically, want to make things really nice and clear, and I think we've done a lot of things to accomplish that. So first of all, we've added a new area called the lab. This is basically, if you've ever played a fighting game, this is kind of like the training mode for this game. It's not quite done. There's a couple things I do want to get into it, but it's a mode that basically you can go into. There's a training dummy there that you can test your weapons out on. You got to see what kind of DPS your weapons are doing. You basically just give yourself any weapon in the game there, and you can change your stats as well. A whole bunch of other properties. You can lock your power shot meter at various levels, that kind of thing. So basically, you can try out all your weapons and see how they're going to perform, and kind of do a bunch of things to optimize your damage. There's a couple more things I do want to get in there. First of all is some dummy settings. So you can basically give like the dummy like infinite life. You can remove the shield, that kind of thing. Because even like right now, like it doesn't have like a ton of health. So basically put a few shots of a revolver or something into it, and it's gonna go down before you're gonna really kind of see what your DPS kind of balances out at. So I want to get some more settings in there for that. And then I actually want to be able to give you some options for actually like spawning a wave. So the maze you build with your infinite money, you can actually test that and see how it does. Hopefully, well, not hopefully. I'll definitely have that in for the next update. I was hoping to get it in for this one, but just kind of ran out of time because I am bad at time management. So I need to improve that. So basically, there's a lab. It's available once you complete both tutorials. And I hope that helps people out. I hope people try it out. Hope they learn some new things and some new interactions, and hope they enjoy it. So quality of life. This has kind of been like the big emphasis for this update. So one of the big things is that put a grid there, so that now you can kind of see like where the different nodes are, the different grids, the different sections where you can put tower bases down. It's funny. Like this used to be like really clear in the prototype that we kind of rolled out in early access with. It's like the levels were like very boxy. It was pretty clear like where you could put tower bases down, but as the levels have become better and more complex, it has been quite as clear. So this has really been something that we've needed probably for a while now, and we got that in there, and I really think it helps a lot. So and yeah, also like tiles you can't place anything on now displays in red. So hopefully hopefully that helps a lot. And we kind of do the same thing on the maps. Let's see here. We're trying to read while doing a video. Oh well, it's here somewhere. We'll get to it. But yeah, basically the maps have the same kind of thing. Like the tiles are darkened in the areas you can't place anything. So a lot of reinforcement there. A lot of clarity has been added to where you can put things, and I hope that helps a lot. Trail indicators now appear on the auto map. So these are like the little like things that shoot out of the portals, the little glowy trail things. Those now actually appear on the map, the auto map. So basically you can see on the map if you have that item, you can see the path of the trails, in the kind of overhead view. So I think that helps a lot. It really seems to help quite a bit. I was planning on doing something like more complex, so it'd be like a continuous trail of things moving, but it's like, no, if I just show the items that are already coming out of the portal, that seems more than adequate. So really like this change. Portals that spawn multiple strings of enemies now produce multiple trails. So basically, for those who don't know, like every portal, okay, like there's 3 different classifications of like clusters of enemies that can come through the portals. There is light clusters, which is the toughest enemy in it is a light enemy, so the ones with the blue background. There's medium clusters, so the highest enemy in it is a medium caliber enemy with a green background, and then finally the toughest enemies are the heavy clusters, and those have like a pink background. And basically, like, portals could the color would change to the highest caliber of enemy that comes out. But if a portal is spawning like two different types of cluster, like heavy and light, which can happen if there's only two portals. Now this will produce like multiple trails from it, so it basically gives a little bit more clarity, like which enemies are coming out of which portal. Kind of, you don't have to really have like prior knowledge of how things work to understand that, hopefully. So I hope that helps a lot. Enemies now spawn closer to the portal exit. This makes waves of enemies reach the world faster. There's a complaint going way back by Mega Pieman, PhD. Basically we're saying, like, there's a lot of dead time in the game. We're just kind of like waiting for things to happen. As I was streaming the game on the store page, for about a week during the holiday sale, this is something I noticed too. It's like I'd get the item, I'd do it quickly because I'm the developer, I know how the game works, and I'd basically just kind of be sitting around waiting for enemies to show up. It's like I would see them there and they just kind of slowly be walking at me, and I wouldn't really have anything else to do. So it's basically made the game look boring, but it made the game actually boring. So hopefully this helps with that. So, added specific messages to explain why towers cannot be placed. So basically this is just a little bit more detail instead of just like saying like invalid location, that kind of thing. Now there's like blocked by the item platform, blocked by the beacon, blocked by portals. In the case of the tutorial, like invalid rotation is another one of them. So basically just a little more information as opposed to like, no, you can't put it here. Again, I hope that helps the clarity of the game a little bit. The player is now rendered on the tab screen map, as well as objects and enemies, if the player has the radar. So basically now you can like press tab and like always see where you are in relation to everything, even if you don't have the radar, compass, whatever it is you need to normally display the player's location. Just a nice quality of life thing there, so you actually know where you are and what's going on. Tiles you cannot place anything on now appears dark gray blocks on the auto map tab screen. Okay, so that's basically what I was talking about up here. This is what I was looking for. So it's kind of the map equivalent of this thing where the tiles you cannot place anything on are now displayed in red. Temporary towers now have a transparent display on the auto map / tab screen map. So basically, but if you're hiding a tile and you haven't put a tower base down there yet, instead of looking like a fully placed tower on the auto map, or both of the maps, now it's kind of transparent. It's not fully there. It's a little ghosty looking. That's just for clarity. So you can kind of tell that information just kind of at a glance now. And then finally, add an explanation pop-up the first time a turret overheats. So we kind of have like a bunch of little messages now for the first thing. The first time something happens, what's that? Like another example is like the item platform. Like the first time something spawns there, there's a little pop-up message that kind of explains that. I know people weren't getting like the turret overheating thing. Like they think like the turret is damaged. So I hope this helps with that. It's possible the effect isn't really communicating that it's overheating enough. Probably the animations too make it look like it's damaged as opposed to being overheated. So I don't know, but hopefully this helps with that. So this Blazar rework, this was supposed to be. I was really hoping to focus on all of the epic weapons and redo them all for this update, but I really kind of had like a really clear vision for the Blazar. I kind of have some ideas for the other ones, when I will get to them later, but it really got side like this quality of life stuff. Like it just kind of became more apparent that this is what really needed to be done for this update. It seemed like it was a lot more important than making the epic weapons better, because it's like if people aren't understanding the game, if things are confusing about the game, they're not going to get to this point. So, you know, it's like I got to make sure like this foundation stuff is much better. So basically increase the base damage from 40 to 45, increase the bonus damage against burning enemies from 50% to 100%. So this this really makes this like a weapon for damaging burning enemies. Like that's really like the big appeal here. This is going to increase the synergy between the Blazar and things like Ruby, which will ignite enemies. Same with the oxygen canister, which will not only ignite enemies, but also increase the duration. So basically you get some of those items that will set things on fire. This Blazar is going to pair a lot better with that. Increase the heat capacity from 100 to 150. And it still ignites enemies when it's above 50 heat. So basically it seemed like it was a little too unforgiving before. You know, before it was like kind of had like a very narrow range between when you were igniting enemies and when it would overheat, and it was a little too unforgiving. So you know, now there's a much bigger window there to where you can ignite enemies and not overheat the weapon. But hey, if you do overheat the weapon, the bonus damage from blazing strikes, bonus damage against or when it's overheated, has been increased from 50 to 100%. So like, you really want to use this power shot when the gun is overheated, and then also increase the bonus against burning enemies. So you know, like this is like a really good like finisher kind of power shot. So you know, so you set something on fire, your gun's overheated, you power shot it, and it frickin' dies. Hopefully, you know, I can see that being really good for like a boss or something. But you know, basically overall, like you know, just the epic weapons just aren't strong enough. They're not epic enough. So you know, looking to give the rest of them a similar buff that the Blazar got here, probably next update. Okay, so new and improved. Added a second tutorial covering weapon ranges and stats. Both tutorials are required to play the game. Yeah, so basically a big point of confusion, which has kind of been there like since the very beginning, is the way the weapon ranges work. You know, a lot of people come into the game expecting the weapons to have, you know, infinite range. You know, no fall off damage like on pistols and that kind of thing. And it's like we could do that, but the game wouldn't be as deep and unique and interesting. It actually makes the game better when like there's limits on ranges and when there's fall off, and you know, when certain weapons do different amounts of damage at different ranges. Because you know, that gets you to move around, it gets you to think about where you're standing, it gets you to think about things. So plus like it kind of fits into the whole stat system that the game has. You know, we can actually upgrade your, you know, kind of base attributes and all that. So it's like we don't really want to ditch the stats. I'm really hoping we don't have to do that. So adding this tutorial to kind of help explain things, and you know, we'll kind of see where it goes, or where it goes from there. So you know, this tutorial, you know, it's with Vance. He covers a range and, you know, the way stats work and weapon ranges, all that stuff work. Which, you know, I think it's pretty important for knowing how to play the game. So, you know, we're making that a required tutorial, which doesn't take too long. It's really not too bad. I think probably any tutorials we do beyond that won't be required, but definitely want to make these first two required because they are quite important. Also increase or enhance the first tutorial, so it's like the writing's better, lots of little bits of cleanup here and there, and it also leads right into the second one. So you know, you go through the portal, and then the second tutorial begins. But if you go through the portal and then exit, like the first tutorial is still considered as done. So you know, overall pretty pleased with that. But you know, doing that second tutorial definitely took some time, but I think it came out well. On the stats menu, stats can now be moused over to display information about the effect the stat has. So like that's something that came up in the second tutorial. You know, like that's actually one of the steps in it. Like, go mouse over this stat so you can see what it does. Yeah, it's I think it's a good way of communicating information about what each of the stats do. and I think it's like consistent with the other mouse overs in the inventory screen. There's a couple things I do need to still include, but they didn't nicely fit everything. For instance, like luck has like a big impact on a lot of things, but like the only one that was like a clear like percentage increase was like the stats one. So like I probably have to edit the way luck works for other things. And then I'll go ahead and update that tooltip. Like also on speed, like I want to include like because like right now it's like plus 25% movement speed. I also want to include like the change to sprint speed, and then possibly like items that can affect sprint speed. Because when we were talking about items that or removing stats, we were talking about like repurposing some of the existing items. One of the great suggestions that I think Trodim had was to make certain items like increase your sprint speed, which is not something I thought of doing before. So I think we can still keep the stat system and then maybe separate movement speed and sprint speed and have items that only affect one or the other or vice versa. So tower and weapon icons now glow when receiving a new tower or weapon. So that's something that definitely happens during the first tutorial, where like you're given new tower blueprints. So the icon now glows on the HUD, and I still want to do that like for like consumables and stuff. I just haven't gotten around to it. So basically, like when an item spawns and you pick it up, the icon glows for the first second or so. So let's see here. The player / enemies now have an easier time moving on slope terrain. No one saw that. So basically, for those who don't know, like the way the enemies move, like it's hard to explain. Basically, they were capsules before. They're basically a big like capsule kind of surrounding the enemy, which is kind of like a cylinder with like a circular top and bottom. And the shape of a capsule moving against like that slope terrain didn't really work too well. Like they would slide back down and it would have a tough time, because the way it's curved, have a tough time walking up the slope. So basically the player and the enemies have been changed to having like a cylinder with like two cones on the top and bottom. So instead of it being like a rounded thing, it's much more steep slope on the top and bottom. And basically that helps the enemies walk up slopes a little bit better. It's not like 100%, like, but it's a lot closer to where I want it. So, it might get better in the future, but it really seems better now. Reduce the base gambling failure chance on normal from 37.5 to 25%, and on hard from 50% to 37.5%. So basically on hard, now it's kind of where it was on normal before, and then normal it's quite a bit more forgiving than it was before. So that's definitely something where it's like people are very risk averse. So if something is like very like unforgiving, like they're not going to want to do it. So I think this was a little bit too strict before, and hopefully it should be better now. To the point where hopefully people are willing to gamble a little bit more. And by the way, like these odds, like these are just kind of like base percentages. Increased luck will bump these odds up a little bit. And again, like really need to include that on the luck tooltip, but we'll get to it. Reduce the health on Gigordo's totems from 100 to 80 in World 1. And from 250 to 120 in World 2. So that's quite a dramatic increase in World 2. It's not so much in World 1. But basically like, the scaling was like way off on these things. Like, the health on the boss was going up by like 50% every world. But then like the totems, it was like, it's like 250%. Which is pretty insane. So like, I just plain had that one wrong. Yeah, there's no way the totem should have been scaling that much. So now it's a lot more in line with like the actual boss itself, where it's a 50% increase. Sonar bruisers now have less shielding but more health. So basically, took some of the shielding points and put them into the health of the bruiser. Basically, people a little bit frustrated by shielding. you know, you can run past it. There's things that do more damage to shields, but you know, it might have been a little bit too much before in terms of how shielded they were. So I don't know. No overall change in terms of the quote unquote health, but you know, a higher percentage of its quote unquote health is actual health and less of it is shielding. That's gonna make it's gonna make poison better against them. It's also going to make regeneration better for them. So I don't know. Picking up a battery can now grant additional power shot meter charges if the player has the duplex capacitor. So basically, like, you know, that's the item that would give you 2 charges when you fill your meter up all the way. And then if you use like one of your charges and then picked up a battery, like, you wouldn't get an additional charge, even though you can have 2 charges. So, you know, it's something intuitive and makes sense now. Change the default zoom key from mouse 3 to left alt. I don't know why I had it as mouse 3 before. That's kind of weird. I don't know if someone suggested that and I wrongfully went with that, but I probably shouldn't have. But now it's left alt. And something, you know, people didn't know before that there was a zoom button all the time. That's part of why I'm really happy with this new tutorial, because now one of the steps is zoom. You know, press the zoom key to zoom in with the rifle. So now there should be no excuse. Everyone should be aware of that now. Cutscene portraits are no longer always loaded. Only the ones that are needed are loaded at the start of the level. This isn't something anyone should notice, really. It's just kind of an optimization thing. The game will take up less memory. Hooray. Rockets and grenades now apply both their impact and splash damage to corpses. Whereas it used to only be the splash damage. This makes resets on corpses easier with the bazooka thumper. I'm not sure how much easier it makes this, because this is something I wanted. You know, I wanted it to be a lot easier to overkill the corpses with the rocket launcher and the grenade launcher. Bazooka thumper, sorry. Like, basically you have to like hit the corpses like exactly perfectly. So this really is not all that great. Then finally, last section here, fixes. Achievements are no longer given during the tutorial, except for the one for completing the tutorial. You know, it's like people were getting the various streak ones like during the tutorial, and we don't want that. Bruisers now signal properly to soldiers that they've been killed by the player. All Snar are basically supposed to come after you if you kill one of their superiors. That wasn't happening properly with the soldiers. You know, you would kill a bruiser and then they wouldn't get the or you would kill a bruiser and then the soldiers wouldn't get the memo that that bruiser had been killed. So that should be fixed. Fix the display issue causing portals to sometimes not render. So occasionally, like, you'd look off to the side of a portal, like, so you couldn't see the center of it, and you know, it would cause the entire inside of the portal to stop rendering. That should be fixed. Fixed several description message errors on the main menu occurring when unlocking new menu items. So, you know, it's once you unlock something on the main menu, you shouldn't go to it and see, like, oh, you need to do this to unlock it. That should all be fixed. I learned how to spell chieftain after I released the chieftain update, so good job, me. And then finally, renamed Kagorok's Savages to Kagorok Savagers. Basically, the reason for this seemingly silly change is that I eventually noticed that, like, all of the light enemies, the ones with the blue backgrounds, had their names ending in ER. So, you know, Trooper, Ranger, Grenadier, Hunter, you know, that kind of thing. The only one that didn't fit this was the Savages. So, thought a quick little fix to that was to call them a Savager. And, you know, I don't know, it's whatever. It's the reason it's the very last change here on the list. It's like the most minor, the most completely unnecessary change in the world. But yeah, I did it. Anyway, so that is going to do it for patch notes here for Into the Lab. Hope you guys like it. I know it's not the biggest update ever, but it's definitely an important one, I think. You know, we were trying to get the game to some people to review. They were finding elements of the game confusing, which I don't blame them for at all. Yeah, a lot of stuff was not adequately explained, and we wanted to get that fixed ASAP, because we don't want people to be confused by this game. We want them to be enjoying it. So, anyway, hope you guys are having a good night, and have a good rest of your day, and take care.